Welcome, ZASLOW Show 2.0. It is a Wednesday, the 28th of June. Good to have you aboard. We are a Blue Wire podcast, presented as always by Anidjar and Levine, accident attorneys. If you've been involved in any kind of an accident, you're dealing with a personal injury, Anidjar and Levine, accident attorneys, 800-747-FREE. That's 800-747-3733. I send you to Anidjar and Levine, not just because they're the title sponsor of ZASLOW Show 2.0, not just because none of this would be possible without Anidjar and Levine accident attorneys, but if you listen to ZASLOW Show 2.0, I practically consider you family. I want to make sure you get taken care of and you're treated like family and you're taken care of when you go to Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorneys. 800-747-FREE. That's 800-747-3733. We got a fun show planned for everybody today. We're going to talk some Marlins baseball. That's right. We're on a Marlins baseball kick right now. And I told you guys this yesterday. For really the first time this year, the Marlins had my attention. Now, not that I don't keep up with what's going on a day-to-day basis. I do. But I was saying to myself all day, 7 o'clock rolls around. We're putting the Marlins on the big TV. That's right. For the first time this year, the Marlins got big TV status in the ZASLOW Mansion family room. So, Marlins last night, between Alcantara on the Hill, they're at Fenway Park. You got Jazz making his return. Marlins had my attention last night. We're going to talk to Joe Frisaro. Nobody covers the Marlins better than Joe. Man on second baseball. And we'll get down to what's going on with your favorite little baseball team. We'll talk to Joe coming up here in a little bit. We're obviously on Damian Lillard watch. There isn't a whole lot to do right there. We're going to do some of that. We're going to do some Miami Heat free agency rumors too. So make sure you like, you rate, you comment, you do all that fun stuff as far as today's show is concerned. I want to tell you though, I don't know if anyone else feels this way. I remember this was a conversation I used to have with my former co-host, Amber Wilson. Great girl. And I think she felt the same way as me. But I wonder if you guys feel the same way. You can always hit me up at ZASLOW Show on Twitter, at ZASLOWJ on Instagram. So, I'm watching LeBatard Show yesterday. Upstart podcast, LeBatard Show, YouTube, DraftKings Network, Meadowlark Media. David Sampson, former Marlins president, is a regular on the show now. Very polarizing. Me personally, I've been consistent with this the whole time. I got no problem with David Sampson. The little interaction that I've had with him, he's always been very nice to me. And I know obviously it's shady the way everything went down with getting the stadium, but I'm glad David Sampson did what he did because if not, we wouldn't have a baseball team here. And I want there to be baseball here in South Florida. I want there to be baseball here in Miami. I love the Marlins, all right? They're very low on my tier list as far as my passion goes, but I don't want the Marlins to go anywhere. And I'm all for getting the stadium. So now that's neither here nor there. That's an old issue. I mean, that's a dozen years ago. But none of that gets done without David Sampson. So, I'm good with David Sampson. Anyway, not the point. The point is super polarizing, and oh my God, you guys hate him. So, they've been having a back and forth the last couple days on the LeBatard Show between Sampson and Mike Schur, a creator of Parks and Rec, The Office, one of the writers, and a huge Boston sports fan. And Mike Schur, David Sampson is defending, Mickey Arison, not necessarily not spending money, but defending the idea that Mickey Arison and owners lose money with their sports teams on a year-to-year basis. And Mike Schur calls bullshit. So they've been doing a whole back and forth the last couple of days. And I mean, it's fascinating. It's super confrontational. There's so much tension. And it's really good shit. Now, I wish I was smart enough to talk about, there's a lot of tax stuff they're talking about. This is a write-off, and this is this, and this against that. And you lose this, you could do it against your profit margin over here. It's a lot of tax stuff that I'm never going to understand because I'm not smart enough. Or at least I'm not smart enough in that area, all right? But while I really enjoyed the back and forth, And I know a lot of people, I think it depends on if you hate David Sampson, you think Mike Shore just eviscerated him. And I don't really know if he eviscerated because, like I said, I don't really understand all the stuff they're talking about. So I don't know who is making the better points. I don't know who is necessarily being more honest. And it's not that I don't think Mike Shore's being honest. I do think he's being honest. Is he correct in what he's saying? And we know that, Sampson can be smarmy and he's certainly a liar. So can he be lying? Of course. But there is an aspect to it where I kind of believe what Sampson is saying because it's hard to listen to someone like Mike Shore who is not in that business telling you what's what. This is Sampson's business. It would be like Sampson arguing with Mike Shore about how to run a show. I would believe everything Mike Shore is saying in that spot. Sampson's out of his element in that area right there. So I got that in the back of my head. But also, let me tell you something. So here's the point I wanted to make where I used to bring this up to Amber Wilson, great girl. And that kind of stuff where there's tension and there's arguing, yelling. I don't really know David Sampson. I've never met Mike Shore. And I watch that stuff and I get really uncomfortable. I get agita from watching them argue with each other. Because you can tell Mike Shore definitely hates him. Definitely not shtick. So much of what they do on that show is shtick. Definitely not shtick. Mike Shore hates David Sampson. And I get uncomfortable. I totally suffer from secondhand embarrassment. Now, that wasn't secondhand embarrassment watching. I'm just uncomfortable. But if something is happening in front of me, like an embarrassing situation, I totally suffer from secondhand embarrassment. Totally. And I'm watching that yesterday, and I totally have agita. I get anxiety just watching it. I don't know. I know a lot of people love, especially if you're talking in radio, podcast, that kind of stuff. That kind of stuff, controversy sells, right? Love hearing people argue. Howard Stern, oh my God, used to love that. Still does love it. But, man, while it makes for a good show, or good radio, if you will, even though this is not radio anymore, man, I get anxiety just watching that stuff. I get agita. It's weird, right? I get really uncomfortable. I totally suffer from secondhand embarrassment. Does that happen to anyone else? Does that happen to anyone else? Anyway, so, all right. I recommend going back and watching it. It was really good stuff. And, because they've been talking a lot. And Sampson's good about this kind of stuff, about Mickey Arison not wanting to spend over the tax. Mickey Arison's willing to spend over the tax if it brings in a championship contender. But I warned you guys about this yesterday. This is important to remember. If the Heat don't spend X amount of dollars, it's not just because Mickey Arison doesn't want to spend over the tax. It's not just because he doesn't want to pay a punitive penalty. It's also because you have so many different triggers now in this new CBA where if you are above the tax and above the apron and above the second apron, it's so unfan friendly. You can't keep track of it. It's impossible if you're a regular fan. But the point is, it's not just about Mickey Arison not wanting to spend money. It's about you are no longer allowed to make this kind of move if you spend this money. You're no longer allowed to do this if you spend this amount of money. You're no longer allowed to make this kind of trade if you spend this amount of money. That's also what it's about. It's not just about Mickey Arison not wanting to spend. So I told you guys this, be aware. It's not just the Heat. It's not necessarily Heat being cheap. It's they want to be able to they don't want to be restricted as far as what type of moves they can make. And that happens with the new CBA now, where there are certain penalties, not just financially, there are certain limitations that get triggered when you spend X amount of dollars. So just keep that in mind. That's all I'm saying. Keep that in mind. All right. So anyway, let's get into Heat stuff. Real quick though, it's summertime. I've told you guys, my insurance is up. My homeowner's insurance, I got to renew it every summer, right? I don't have any issues, though. I use Brunt Insurance. If you need homeowner's insurance, well, you do need homeowner's insurance. But if you think you're spending too much money, go to bruntinsurance.com or call Brunt Insurance at 954-589-2204. I've had a number of listeners who reach out to me and say, Zaslow, I called Brunt Insurance at 954-589-2204. They're saving me thousands of dollars on my home insurance. I'm like, yeah, no kidding. I've been telling you. Brunt Insurance, from Pensacola all the way down to the Keys and beyond, they are delivering comprehensive insurance tailored exactly to your needs. That's why I've been using Brunt Insurance for my homeowner's insurance for almost 10 years now. I know I'm getting the coverage that I need, and no matter where in Florida you're calling from, South Florida, Central Florida, North Florida, Brunt Insurance was recently rated top 5 insurance agency in the country, #1 in Florida. Wherever you're calling from, Greg Brunt and his team, fully licensed staff at Brunt Insurance. They know exactly your area and exactly what type of coverage you need. Plus, you're going to get the best rate out there. 954-589-2204. The only insurance agency I use, the only one I'm going to send you to. Brunt Insurance. Go to bruntinsurance.com. So, a few Heat notes here. Let's start with Lillard, right? Everyone wants to start with Lillard. So, let's start with Lillard here. Lillard's afraid to ask out. That's what it's coming down to, right? And I've been saying for a few days, there's not a single player with the number 3 overall pick that the Blazers could have added that you would look at them and say, yeah, they're a contender now in the West. Same thing. There's not a single free agent to be signed, which I don't know if they have free agency money. I don't know if they're under the cap, but there's not a free agent to be signed or a trade that can be made where you're going to put next to Damian Lillard and say, this is a championship team. I think Damian Lillard is afraid to ask out. Lillard's not stupid. I mean, these guys have irrational confidence, yes, but Lillard's not stupid. He knows there's not a player that they could reasonably add that's going to make them, A, a contender, and B, a contender even in the Western Conference. Lillard's not stupid. He knows this. He's just afraid to be the one to ask out, and he's given the Blazers a chance here to improve the roster, so he's keeping his word where I'm giving you a chance. Let's see what you got. And then when the Blazers can't do anything of significance, it'll soften the blow when he finally does ask out. But it really feels like he's afraid to be the bad guy right now, even though everyone is telling him, you should do this. So I told you that already, where I think he's afraid to ask out. And I also think the Blazers front office are afraid to make the first move. I don't think that either of them, I gotta be honest, I don't think either of them want to stay together any longer. If the Blazers, you got a young team, Anthony Simons, Shaedon Sharpe, Scoot Henderson, that's where you build. Those 3 guys. And now you could also trade Lillard for a package of more picks and probably also another really good young player. That's a good starting point for building. The Blazers front office, by the time that group right there is ready to win, you look at this league, veteran teams win. Veteran teams advance in the playoffs. You know, different from, say, the NFL. It is not a young man's game. And when I say young man, I mean guys who've been in the league for 1, 2, 3, 4 years. It is not a young man's game. It's a veteran league. You have to have guys who have been there. Veterans win in the NBA. So, we're talking 3, 4 years. Like, if Scoot Henderson is to, and for that matter, Anthony Simons and Shaedon Sharpe as well, if they're to become the players that the Blazers think that they're able to become, you're talking 3 or 4 years down the road, which is okay. That's the way it is. If you think Damian Lillard is going to still be a big contributor in 3, 4 years down the road, you're nuts. And Lillard, he knows this as well. You're not winning with a 19-year-old Scoot Henderson as your running mate. He may be awesome, but you're not winning anything with a 19-year-old running mate. Damian Lillard knows, I don't have 3-4 more years to sit around here. Lillard knows that they're not going to be a contender no matter what they could do. And the Blazers front office, if they don't see that either, these guys are not in the right job. They're not qualified to run the Blazers if they actually think that they can make a move or two here that's going to allow them to contend right now. Matter of fact, it's almost malpractice if they decide to keep building around Lillard right now as opposed to moving Lillard and going full-on rebuild. You have the young pieces to start this rebuild. And the longer you wait with Lillard, the less you're going to get for him. It almost feels like this year is the last opportunity to get a really good haul for Damian Lillard. Because the longer what if he suffers a big injury? Now he's injury prone. Or what if you start to see a drop off? Hell, he's 33 years old. If the Blazers front office can't see that, they're not in the right job. And I think Lillard wants out. He's afraid to do it. I think the Blazers want to move on from Lillard. They're afraid to do it. So I don't know who's going to be the one to actually get out there and end this game of chicken, but I think both sides want to go their separate ways because they know that's what's better for everyone else. I really think so. Now, as far as the Heat go, I saw Max Strus. I think it was ZASLOW who said it as well. I saw Max Strus is apparently going to be in high demand. Totally believe it. Absolutely believe it. Max Strus, I'll bet Max Strus. I could see Max Strus getting a deal, something like 3 for $45. I could see that. 3 for $45. The Heat are not going to be able to keep Max Strus. Number one, like I said, you have the tax implications, and the Heat are going to be super limited if they keep all of their free agents. There's that. But also, you can't have Robinson and Strus on the team make it a combined like $35 million. You can't do it. You got to, eventually if you're the Heat, you got to learn your lesson somewhere. They're going to find the next Max Strus. And I know it kind of sucks where you develop this player and then he's going to go and thrive somewhere else. I don't know that that's necessarily going to be the case. I think this is who Max Strus is. Pretty good player. I think this is the ceiling on Max Strus. And in a salary cap league, you got to find the value. And I think the Heat have had amazing value with Max Strus. When you start paying him like $15 million a year, the same thing with Duncan Robinson. When you start paying him $15 million a year, which I think Strus will get, you don't have the value anymore. And in a salary cap league, you got to find the value. Now, that doesn't mean that Max Strus is not a player worth having. I wish the Heat can keep him. I just got to be realistic. I don't think the Heat are going to be able to keep him. Now, Gabe Vincent is another story. If it came down to Vincent or Strus, I absolutely keep Gabe Vincent. I think he plays a more important position. I think he's better on both sides of the floor. I think Gabe Vincent is still continuing to grow. I think Gabe Vincent, I don't think he's reached his ceiling. If I had to pick between the two, I absolutely keep Gabe Vincent. And it's starting to sound like the Heat are prioritizing keeping Gabe Vincent. So, little update there on the two of those guys. All right, before we continue on, look, it's the summertime. What better time than to treat yourself to a brand new ride? Now you may be thinking, you know what, I'm in the market for a new car, ZASLOW, but I don't know where to go. That's actually the easy part. I send you to the only car dealership I personally endorse, North Fort Lauderdale Subaru. North Fort Lauderdale Subaru, conveniently located on North Andrews Avenue, just north of Cypress Creek Road. Widest selection of newest Subaru models on the market. We're talking the Outback, the Crosstrek, the Forester, the Ascent, the WRX. Maybe you're looking for a Subaru SUV for the family. Look no further. North Fort Lauderdale Subaru, South Florida's newest and technologically advanced Subaru dealer, where you could shop over 1,000 vehicles from your home if you want. That's right. NFL, it's easy to remember, NFLSubaru.com, NFLSubaru.com, the building you know and the place to go, North Fort Lauderdale Subaru.